Hey, this is Richard, and today we're going to be going into one-piece construction. We have three examples for you. I'd like you to do a mock-up of each. Once you've done your mock-ups, I'd also like you to go ahead and choose one particular technique that you like and make a complete bag. And once you've made this complete bag, you can turn it in as your assignment. So if you're ready, I'm ready, and okay, folks, here we go. I'm going to give you a quick explanation of each of the figures that are in the tutorial. But I'm going to start out of sequence. I'm going to start with B, which is a T-bottom. And I'm not really going to go over T-bottom because you already know how to do it based on the very first assignment you had when you enrolled in the course, which was a T-bottom, one of the simplest bags to make, which of course includes the gusset and the bottom in one piece. And since this particular class is about one-piece construction, and you already know that one, we're not going to go through that. Okay, so now let's move on The next one we're going to go through is A and C. Now A gives you a box structure with 4 seams. It's pretty simple, nothing extraordinary about it. B is of course the body, A is the bottom of the bag, and C is the gusset. And you have your control elements really in this particular bag as far as design is C, the gusset. You can flare it out, you can taper it, you can give it shape at the top. There's many things that you can do with it from that standpoint. And of course you all know how to add a flap or your closure. And the one thing about one-piece construction is that each pattern, depending on the closure, will be a little different. You can't take a pattern that you've done for a flap, or not even a flap, say a zipper, and put a frame on it. So each one has to be different. Okay. The next, here, before I go on, let me go through this example here. Now, one of the issues with this pattern is you can't really allow it to fold. It has to be sort of boxy or stay that way to a certain point, because the longer or the wider your gusset at the top, when you try to say put a flap on it and your flap is 3 inches across the top and your gusset is 5 inches across the top, then you're going to start to get this little bit of fold in here. And if the gusset is too wide at the top, in this particular case, when it folds, when the bag naturally folds, the gussets will cross each other like that. So one of the things you have to do and consider when you're making one-piece construction basically is the gusset. The gusset pretty much is everything about it. Okay? So that's what you get when you do that. Now, moving on. One of the things that happens in figure C, this type of bag, is that you are eliminating this fold over in your bag, and this allows you a little bit of freedom. A to B represents the top of your bag. In this case there is no flap, so A to B is going to be the top of your bag. B to F represents the gusset, and it's 1/2 the measurement of your gusset. So for instance, if your gusset is 3 inches wide, then B to F would be 1.5 inches. And then of course you have the length of the body of your bag. Now G to K, G to J, H to J, and what does all this mean? Well, what you're doing here is you're making the fold in for your bag. And what I mean by the fold in, whoops, don't I have a picture here? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture. Here we go. Let me just step away out of frame. And you're making this fold in. And so I'm sure you've seen the style of bags where they close it and it makes a little nice V in the middle, and the V lays down and pulls the bag in. So this is what you're trying to do in this particular example, figure C. Now what you're also doing here is you're controlling the height of this little apex here, this little part that's coming out. This is going to collapse in on the bag and allow the bag to fold. Now you're controlling the height of this apex by the distance between this cutout here area here, you see, that's actually controlling the height of your fold in. So if you want, for instance, I think I have a quick example here if I can find it, which I can't. Oh, here it is. Here's a little quick example of that. Now, if you want this to lay down really flat, tight, like on the bottom of your bag, then the distance between K and L won't be so great. The greater the distance between K and L, then the greater this V or this apex will stand on your bag. The shorter that the shorter that distance, at least the shorter that distance, then the flatter this will lay. And I hope I don't have that reversed. But you're actually between here and here, you're controlling where this apex comes out of your bag. Everything else is pretty simple. C, D, B, A, that represents the body of your bag. G and H represents the bottom of your bag. J, the distance between, from J represents, of course, the apex of the gusset, but G and H represents the seam allowance. This seam allowance, because you're gonna, whatever your seam allowance is over here, you're gonna move this G and H away from the baseline, which is right here, B to D. You're gonna move it over. And so if your seam allowance is 3/8, then G and H will be 3/8 from B and D. So that'll be 3/8 up that way. And so that's your seam allowance. Now from E, over here at E, we can see our seam allowance has already been applied. So say you go from B to F, you want 3 inches, so this is 1.5. So you would add your seam allowance, that would be 3/8, and you get your seam allowance on one side, and then you cut like it's indicated here, and you have your pattern. But remember, the distance you have between this point and say the distance you have with this angle here, this area right here is controlling the height of of your apex. Okay, so if you want this to be lower, then the distance here would not be so great. If you wanted this to be higher, then like stand like this, then the greater the distance is between K and L, then the height of this apex will vary. So it can go really flat and really push in, or it can ride high and be and not push in so much. So that's what you're controlling there. And other than that, you really shouldn't have a problem figuring this pattern out. The notes are pretty good. L and M, you really want this between L and M, you want this to really stick out, and L and M represents really the distance between J and H half. So this is like 1.5. This is 1.5, because these 2 points have to meet up, and you want L to J to M to extend. This little apex right here, you want it to extend over, because it allows you the ability to sew much easier. Now, as long as you have the right seam allowance, from if it's 3/8, as long as you have the right seam allowance, you can kind of go back in there and adjust. But if you don't get the right seam allowance between from here, from B, D to J, H, then it's going to be really hard for you to come back and make adjustments without making a new pattern. Now, one of the things we got here, whoops, shaky camera. One of the things we have here is figure 4. And figure 4 shows after you sew the bag and before you've turned it inside or right side out or inside, I keep forgetting. But after you've turned it, you can see your stitch line. So this would be your seam allowance. You've stitched, you've gotten to your point, you've stitched up, and that. And so now you're left with this little apex sticking out. At this point, you can remove this because it's totally not necessary. It's only there to help you be able to sew the bag easier. Now because if you leave it there, it could interfere with your backing, it could interfere with your lining. So once you've sewn your bag, just go ahead and remove this, okay? So that's about it. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, I just wanted to add something to the video really quickly. Here's a little quick pattern that I'm working on, just to kind of show you what's going on. So basically, once you finish your pattern, it will fold up. And I'm gonna just tuck this underneath here because it's paper. It actually tore a little bit. So let me see if I can. So I got a flap on this. So as you can see, so it would bend over, and we'll just put it like this, I guess, so that this really wouldn't go in. This would squeeze in, and this would be like our deal. But you have to remember this is not sewn together, so that's why it's overlapping. So it wouldn't normally overlap. Let me look at it from a, yeah, this is more like it. But it normally wouldn't overlap like that. So, but this is my one little one-piece pattern that I have working. And that's what you're kind of going to end up with. And then my handles will go up here on the, my handles will go up here on the top. So that's what you're kind of working with, just for a quick example. And then, oh, let me add something else to that. I can always think of something to tell you. And then when I want this to bend over, when I want this to bend over, my top to bend over, I'll put a little window here. I'll put a little foam on the top to give it a nice feel. And that'll be my bag, and put my handles either right here on the top, which I doubt I do, but I'll probably put them here in the front and in the back, and also I can still modify the part of my flap that's extending over the front. Okay, and that's it.